on this edition of Native Report. We attend an evening of classical music and meet violinist Karen Durfee. We learn how one community is bridging the culture gap through the use of the Ojibwe language. And we go to the Minnesota State Fair, where we attend a performance by the Native Pride Dancers. We also learn something new about Indian country and hear from our elders on this Native Report.
Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux Community and the Blandin Foundation.
Welcome to Native Report. I'm Stacy Thunder. Karen Durfee first held a violin when she was a young child, and after her grandfather and parents saw she had an interest in the instrument, they encouraged her to take lessons. Today, she is a violinist performing with the Duluth Superior Symphony Orchestra.
Violinist Karen Durfee is very serious about her craft, but she fondly recalls a childhood memory that makes her laugh.
I was introduced to the violin at the age of 4 from my grandfather, and the violin that I play is from my grandfather. It wasn't ever like forced, but he introduced it and I was very interested. They have a picture of me at the age of 4 sitting with him, and I have his violin, and it's really funny because I have like perfect technique. I'm only 4 years old. I mean, the way it looks, it was like my hand, everything. It was like, and I waited, and I was looking forward in 5th grade to get a violin to start playing. I remember either the first day I took my violin home, I sat on the couch and just looked at it and kept, was really interested in it, kept practicing open strings. And 5th grade, I got into the little elementary orchestra and started playing, and ever since it was just orchestra every year and just practice. And it was kind of a way of my own world. It's not that my life was bad or anything, but I could go in and play for hours and it was like I was somewhere else. Before I got into symphony, I was playing anywhere from 8 to 16 hours a day for like 3-4 years straight to audition for the Duluth Superior Symphony. Getting into the DSSO, that was an obsession. I had like big sores and going hours. I would start in the morning and then I would quit and make lunch, and then when lunch was being made and cooking on the stove, I would practice, and then I would hurry up and eat, feed my kids and do the dishes, and then practice some more, and then supper would come along and I'd hurry up and prepare, and then it would go on for days and days and days.
Karen is also trained on other instruments and can play other genres of music on the violin, but she enjoys playing pieces by the classical composers such as Mozart and Beethoven.
I did go through a lot of the instruments too, like bass and cello and clarinet, bassoon, and didn't quite get to percussion though. And I did give viola lessons for a while too. I play a lot of Bach. That's like my little Bible, the Bach, all the partitas and the concertos. I use them for warm-ups, and none of them have ever been perfect really, but it's almost like exercises because Bach is so intense. Like Bach is just like never ending. He's physical too. I mean, it's like your fingers are just sore, and he's really intense theoretically, and everything about Bach I think he's kind of like the king of classical. People would probably disagree with me, but I think he's like the ultimate. He's, composer. If you play classical, you can more or less play anything. Jazz, fiddle, rock, swing. I have to admit though, the rock beat still, we have to be reminded sometimes from our conductor, like it's more swing because we're all so stiff, you know, and formal. So when we have to loosen up, that can be like, oh, yeah, okay, so.
Playing violin with the Duluth Superior Symphony Orchestra in front of hundreds of classical music lovers might seem intimidating. But then again, Karen and her colleagues are professionals.
The audience kind of disappears. It's all about just the music and the sounds and the intenseness and the conductor and what we're playing. And, you know, you have to almost be reminded that there are people out there, you know, especially if people show up during our rehearsals, because that's more relaxed. And not as, it's still disciplined, but not as much. So you kind of like, oh, look out, there's, oh, people are watching. I have to admit though, if the dress rehearsal goes by too smoothly, I'm a little worried for the concert because it's almost like you've peaked. And to keep that peak going, you know, without sliding downward is the only thing that kind of crosses our, you know, my mind. And I know a few other musicians, yes. You don't want to peak too soon. It's great to peak on concert night, not the dress rehearsal. So when there's more mistakes during the dress rehearsal, I'm very pleased. It is a complicated instrument. You're doing over 169 things at once. I have to admit, my violin is my baby. You know, I don't compare it with my children, but I mean, I don't let anybody touch her. You know, like I don't let my grandchildren, like, can I look at your violin? And if I do, I show them. It's not like, oh, sure, and they take it off, you know, and are like playing around with it. They say everybody has music in their soul, even animals. Like if you looked at orcas and dolphins and stuff, they really like Mozart and Beethoven and stuff. And so they say it's kind of like calms the beast. And I do believe that everybody does have music in their soul or spirit. Except there's sometimes, and it's not very often, somebody can really be tone deaf. And then it's all about technique.
Did you know that Bemidji, Minnesota derives its name from the Ojibwe word meaning lake that traverses another body of water? Bemidji is the principal city in north-central Minnesota and the largest commercial center between Grand Forks, North Dakota and Duluth, Minnesota. Bemidji houses many Native American services, including the regional offices of the Indian Health Service. The city is the central hub of 3 Ojibwe nations, the Red Lake Nation, the White Earth Nation, and the Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe are all near the city. Bemidji lies on the southwest shore of Lake Bemidji, the northernmost lake feeding the Mississippi River, and as such is deemed the first city on the Mississippi. Bemidji State University is known for its American Indian Studies program, and the city itself is known for the many signs it has posted in the Ojibwe language.
Next, a bilingual project in Bemidji, Minnesota is serving 2 purposes. 1, in a small way, it helps preserve the culture and language of the Ojibwe, and 2, it's bridging the culture gap between Native and non-Native people. All great things begin somewhere, and this is no different. It began with a handful of businesses willing to put up signage, and it has grown from there.
It is a warm fall day when we reach the American Indian Resource Center on the Bemidji State University campus, where we'll learn about the City of Bemidji's language project that incorporates the Ojibwe language into daily life.
The way it began was a couple of different things. My brother had just gotten back from Ireland and was telling me about how they've got bilingual signage in Ireland now because the Brits took the Celtic language away from the Irish, and now they're trying to relearn it. And my mind drifted back to the years that I was in the Army in Hawaii, and I remember that Hawaiian was so much more a part of the culture in Hawaii than it is in here. And I didn't understand. It's indigenous peoples. Why aren't we paying closer attention to the indigenous history, culture of this land like they do in Hawaii? What really brought it about was the tragedy at Red Lake. And I was sitting in the office of the city manager in Bemidji, and he had a Red Lake flag sitting on his credenza. And I suggested to him that maybe he should run that flag up the flagpole at half-mast for a day or two. Well, he ran it up. He ran up the flag and he sat it there for about a week. And I was working for Red Lake at the time, and I never heard such positive remarks come from Red Lakers about Bemidji. The thought occurred to me, why not try and put Ikwewag and Ininiwag, women and men, on the bathroom doors? And I offered to buy the first 20. And we started walking down the street and asking about that. I was convinced it would work. I was convinced that a lot of people are interested in Indian culture but don't know how to go about it. They don't know how to ask an Indian, like even what to call you. Are you an Indian? Are you Native American? That kind of thing. And it worked. I walked down the street, we had 20 before you knew it, and we're up to 158.
Bemidji is in close proximity to 3 reservations in northern Minnesota: Red Lake, Leech Lake, and the White Earth Nation. A supporter of the project is Ojibwe language expert Dr. Anton Troyer.
I'm really excited about the bilingual Ojibwe English signage effort in Bemidji. I first got involved with this when I got a phone call from Michael Mewers, who's this crazy white guy living in Bemidji, came up with a really great idea. You know, when people go to Hawaii, everybody knows what aloha means, everybody knows what mahalo means, even people who've never been to Hawaii know what aloha means, and if people come here, they really should know what buju means, miigwech, anin, and other common vocabulary. I got the phone calls because people started requesting a lot more language information than just buju and miigwech, and I got the calls about how do you say gymnasium, library, internal medicine and radiology and things like that. So that's how I got pulled in.
I was on a committee called Shared Vision with Michael Mewers, and it was his idea and sort of vision to do the Ojibwe signs, and I just volunteered to go around with him to businesses. I just said, hey, I'll do that, but I didn't. I don't think at the beginning I realized just what a big impact it would have. We emphasized that we're not selling anything. We're just selling the idea that we would like Bemidji to be a more welcoming place. Bemidji can be a very racist community, and we don't think we are, but yeah, you grow up and my grandma, for instance, if an Indian man would be walking down the street, she would lock the door, or just with the fear of the culture. So I definitely know there is tension here. So I didn't think businesses would be excited about doing this.
There are over 150 Bemidji area businesses in the effort. One of the biggest is the Regional Health Center, the Sanford Clinic, which raised the challenge of creating Ojibwe words for complex medical concepts.
All languages change over time. If you think about the words we use in English today, most of them would not have made sense to anybody even 50 years ago. Motherboard, internet, World Wide Web would have caused complete confusion. So there's a process that all languages have for developing ways to describe new things.
I gotta ask, how did you come up with a word for X-ray?
Yeah, some of these are pretty fun and had to bounce them off of a few people. But usually, I'm trying to remember the word that we actually did use for X-ray. I think it was, I think we used some derivation of wabi, which is sight or vision, and binge wabi win would be like to see inside of someone or something, and we use some variation of that.
The pitch that I give when Rochelle and I go downtown and talk to people about this is that it's going to make Indian people feel more respected and welcome in the community. Millions of dollars these reservations pour into Bemidji. It's going to teach the non-Indian a little bit about the culture that was here before 1895. A lot of people think history began in 1895 in Bemidji. Long before, at least 400 years before that, the Ojibwe and the Sioux before them. Why aren't we making that part of our heritage? I, as a white man, Chimukaman, why aren't I absorbing that in? Why isn't that my heritage and my culture as well? That's my history. If I live here, that's part of my history as well. As my friend Larry Stilday says, it's not about Indians, it's about people.
I actually went to school in Bemidji, and I suppose there's about 20, maybe 25% of the town's native, although it might be as much as half of the shopping population's native, because we have these 3 large reservations around Bemidji, but those two worlds rarely interacted. I know it could be hard or awkward sometimes for non-native people when presented with a few angry looks or just feeling unsure of how to reach out to or engage the native community. There are lots of misunderstandings. To me, what the bilingual signage effort does, it doesn't fix all the big problems. But what it does do is it creates safe space where we can talk about those big problems.
What makes the veteran drum so special?
My own feeling is that it's a drum that's a result of a dream and has a lot of power. A lot of, in our language, the drum is de wagen. In our language, de in our language means heart. And wagen, according to the older people, they said heart sounding. So in my own feeling is that the drum is the word itself in Ojibwe is an animate word, meaning it's alive, and we respect that because of we call what we our manidug, our spirits, and the drum has a spirit, and so that's why we hold that special. And this when our drums come through dreams like that from our people. And we were instructed by the Creator to put those drums together like that, and that's the way the soldier drum came to be as a result of a dream.
The Native Pride dancers celebrate the spirit and beauty of Native peoples through music, dance, and storytelling. I had a lot of fun with the dancers at the Minnesota State Fair as we interviewed them and watched their energetic performance. It's Labor Day weekend at the Minnesota State Fair, and thousands of fairgoers are walking the Midway. Here at the International Bazaar, the Native Pride dancers will delight the audience with their performance.
I've always had the love for dance, and I remember watching a gentleman by the name of Mr. Kevin Locke. He used to come to this annual powwow every Labor Day weekend in Rock Island, Illinois, and he would do the hoop dance, he would do the flute, and he inspired me at a very young age. I would say around 6 or 7 years old. And ever since then, I've always wanted to perform for the people, for my family, and for the non-natives as well. So as I got older, I started developing my dance as a fancy dancer. I've always been a fancy dancer, and the love of fancy dance has really lifted my spirits physically, spiritually, mentally. And back in 2003, I started my own dance company called Native Pride Dancers. And I saw a need to educate and inspire at the same time for our Native youth and also to the non-natives in a lot of our public schools across America. You can be inspired and motivated through music and dance, whether it be Native American music or any type of genre of music. As long as you find that rhythm within your spirit, you can go out and do anything in life.
Larry and his troupe members will perform a variety of dance styles this afternoon. Men's fancy dance, men's grass dance, women's traditional, and girls' fancy shawl.
Native Pride dancers are a dance troupe made up of many dancers from many tribal nations. We have the Meskwaki Nation represented, we have Lakota Nation, we have the Anishinaabe people, and so it's not one family group. We just bring and invite others to be a part of our production, our dance group. When you think about all the tribes that have lived on Turtle Island and even into South America, there are so many, and everyone has their own languages, everyone has their own styles of dance, their own stories, and when we have different tribal members represented in our shows, it just gives the audience a different view of someone else.
My auntie was friends with Larry for a long time, and wherever they go, she makes like star quotes for them, and she showed me videos of them dancing, and I really wanted to dance with them. I started as Jingle, and then ever since I got into kindergarten, I became a fancy dancer.
I do dance fancy shawl for my own pleasure on occasion, but my grandfather was adamant about the fact that I would be a Northern Appliqué dancer, and so my family honored his wishes, and I continue to do that today for him. So it's a woodland style of dance. Our dresses are decorated in a way that's sort of reflective of the woodlands environment. Our dance style, I guess there's a few different ways of kind of doing it, but we call it the scrub style or washboard, but it ties me to the people that raised me. It ties me to people, you know, back beyond them. And so in my own way, I'm honoring, like I said, the wishes of my grandfather, who was a veteran also, so that was important to me.
I am a men's grass dance. It's a style of dance that I picked up as a teenager. But when I initially started dancing very young, I was also a fancy dancer. It's considered one of the older styles of dancing that you would see at celebrations or powwows. And it's a very fluid style. Unlike fancy dance, where it's very flamboyant, very contemporary, this style is a little bit more subtle, maybe subdued in its movements. The story behind the dancing is these warriors would come out into an area, and not only would they be dancing to lay down that tall prairie grass, but we're kind of also blessing the area that we're going to be utilizing, whether it's for a camp or for a celebration or what have you. And the regalias, it's a lot different than, like I said, the fancy dance. We don't wear the two bustles. We don't wear any kind of feathering on our backs. It's just our regalia is adorned with a lot of ribbon, a lot of fringe, and that's symbolic of that tall grass, because back long ago they didn't have the materials we use today, like ribbon and yarn, and they would actually take that prairie grass and tie it into bundles and hang it from their clothing.
The dance troupe has taken their performance internationally, such as Ireland, France, Australia, and Brazil, to name a few. They also performed in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
I want to say about 8-9 years ago, we were approached by Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade to be part of a float. And so me and my son Jessup at that time was only 5 or 6 years old, and he and I had the experience to be a part of the Macy's Day Parade. So again, they contacted us again this year to be part of this Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. And this time they wanted up to 12 fancy dancers, 10 to 12 fancy dancers, to put on the full production show. When I'm up there dancing, whether it be on a stage or in a powwow arena, it's my connection to the Creator. It's how I feel. I'm dancing for the Creator. I'm dancing for the people, I'm dancing for my family, and I'm also dancing for myself. The message I enjoy portraying is that we are still here and that we're able to live in today's society, but at the same time, remembering who we are as Indian people, that we still speak our language, we still attend our ceremonies back home, and we are proud people of who we are today.
For more information about Native Report or the stories we've covered, look for us at nativereport.org and Facebook. Thank you for spending time with us here on Native Report. I'm Stacy Thunder.
Stacy Thunder is a member of and legal counsel for the Red Lake Nation, and Ted Johnson is a member of the Boys Fort Band of Chippewa and is chair for the American Indian Studies Department on the campus of the University of Minnesota, Duluth. Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux Community and the Blandin Foundation.